we have a trade to announce. Taylor Hall, that's this guy right here, although that was a couple jerseys ago, has been traded from the New Jersey Devils to the Arizona Coyotes. Here is the exact trade, to be specific, the full thing. Taylor Hall, along with forward prospect and former third rounder Blake Spears, are heading to the Arizona Coyotes from the New Jersey Devils. The package going from the Coyotes to the Devils is 5 parts. It's 3 prospects and 2 picks. The 3 prospects are former first rounder Nick Merkley, former second rounder Kevin Ball, former third rounder Nathan Schnarr, a 2020 first, and a conditional 2021 third that has a chance to become a first. Before we get to the conditions on the 2021 pick, there is a small condition on the 2020 pick. This from Sportsnet's Chris Johnston: the 2020 first round pick from Arizona in the Taylor Hall trade is top 3 protected, converts to a 2021 first if so, which is just due diligence and smart at this point. Basically, if the Coyotes were to somehow completely fall off a cliff, miss the playoffs, and then win the draft lottery, which would suck for them because they don't have their first round pick anymore, it's okay. They get to keep it. I mean, their season would be in shambles and a complete failure, and they would have to kick that can down the line, but at least they would get to keep their top 3 pick. Now, regarding the conditional third round pick in 2021, Elliot Friedman had this. Here are conditions on the 1 pick. It stands as a third. If Hall re-signs or the Coyotes win a playoff round, it becomes a second. If both of those things happen, that's Hall re-signing and the Coyotes would have to win a round, that becomes a first. So if you really wanted to, you could look at it this way. Taylor Hall and Blake Spears for 2 firsts and a former first and a former second and a former third. Regardless of how the conditions work out, the Coyotes gave up 5 parts, guaranteed 5 pieces for Taylor Hall, and there is no guarantee that he's even going to stay. In fact, if he does stay, it's going to get more expensive. And it's even more complicated than that. The New Jersey Devils retain half of Taylor Hall's salary. His contract expires at the end of the season, but they still had to retain half. Why? The Coyotes don't spend any money. Actually, they spend a ton. At very least, cap space. I don't know about dead dollars, but the Coyotes are into LTIR. So the Devils retain half on Taylor Hall, and it still might not even be enough. This from Cap Friendly. What would we do without Cap Friendly, man? Arizona is roughly $175,000 short of being able to make this trade fit under the cap with the relief dollars they have. We've been told Halmerson was not placed on long-term injury reserve. Therefore, we are assuming 2 things. 1, this is a post-5 p.m. trade, or 2, a corresponding move will come tomorrow. Whatever it is, we're going to find out awful soon because the Coyotes have to be cap compliant, and also the Christmas trade freeze is coming. The Coyotes are so interesting because they're currently sitting on top of the Pacific Division. Darcy Kemper is thoroughly in Vezina conversation, and if that sounds ridiculous to you, you haven't been paying attention. Dallas Stars, unreal team, right? They've been so hot lately. Ben Bishop, unreal goalie, right? He was nominated for the Vezina last year. Well, what if I told you in the exact same amount of games, which is 23, Darcy Kemper has a higher save percentage? At the time I'm shooting this video, Ben Bishop is a .933, which is ridiculous. Kemper is a .935. That's what's been making them tick. And on offense, you got guys like Phil Kessel, right? The Coyotes only have 2 players in the top 100 in NHL scoring, and Kessel's not one of them. Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller are in a many player tie for 84th in the league. Keeping the puck out of their net, the Coyotes are fine. Only the Stars and Islanders allow fewer goals per game than the Coyotes do. In terms of goals for per game, the Coyotes, who are leading the Pacific Division, by the way, are 22nd in the league. But now you add some firepower in Taylor Hall, who won league MVP just a couple years ago, and if Kessel heats up, a few other guys heats up, look out. This is an unbelievable stat from Sportsnet Stats, by the way. Taylor Hall is the 5th player to be traded in 18 months after winning the Hart Trophy, joining just Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky, Google him, he was pretty good, Phil Esposito, and Jacques Plante. That's, pretty good company. Now granted, Taylor Hall's season's been miserable. The Devils have been awful, and Hall has been fighting injuries ever since he won the Hart Trophy. And everyone's focusing on the fact that he only has 6 goals through 30 games so far this season, but you sort of ignore the fact that he's still got 25 points, and that's not half bad. Imagine how much more freely Hall can skate around when he looks behind him and sees a goalie who actually has a pretty good chance of stopping the puck. And I'm sure Hall's agent, Darren Ferris, has nudged him in the ribs a couple times and gone, hey man, it's a contract. contract year. I would expect John Chayka to try to re-sign Taylor Hall as soon as possible, but if I know Darren Ferris, and in Toronto I just might, I think Taylor Hall is looking to test free agency. I mean, whether he does or he doesn't, the long and short of it is if you test free agency, you get more money. Wow. Now, not everyone loving the return for New Jersey. There was this. From Todd Cordell, my read is this. Kevin Ball, ceiling is a complimentary number 4, likely a physical third pairing guy. Yeah, he's huge. He's like 6'7". Schnarr and Merkley, potential to be modern bottom 6 forwards. Okay. First round picks, good. Conditional pick. Hope Arizona goes deep and or Hall re-signs and play the lottery. Put another way, if the Devils don't hit on the draft picks, I don't see them getting a top 6 forward or top 4 defenseman for a guy who won the Hart Trophy in 2017-18. Not ideal. And Todd is absolutely right there. If none of those things hit, it's not good. But to me, Arizona maximized their chances of hitting by getting 5 different parts. Ball is a giant who's still playing in junior, so we'll see how that works out. Schnarr just began in the American Hockey League. We can't really tell what he's going to be. And Merkley's numbers in the AHL, you're right, are good, not great. How will the Devils do with those picks? Well, that's up to the Devils now. That's not Arizona's responsibility. It's up to the Devils to scout properly and find their team players. The other good thing for the Devils is, in terms of their core, like, I don't think they needed to get key pieces of their core in this deal, even though it was for Taylor Hall. You know that Jack Hughes is going to be there in the future. You just signed Nico Hischier to like a 15-year deal or something like that. You know who your core is. If you get guys who can play in the NHL and play well, that's a victory. But like Todd said, you gotta hit. The Devils gotta hit at least 3 of those 5 pieces. So I'm sure you've already noticed there's a comment section down below. What do you think of this deal? How do you think the Devils did? How do you think the Coyotes did? Are the Coyotes a better team? Do you consider them a Stanley Cup contender? And why not? They're leading the Pacific Division. They just got an MVP from a couple years ago. Maybe we should talk about them like that. Is Taylor Hall's boating license valid in Arizona? Lots of questions, and I'm looking forward to your answers. But that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends that Taylor Hall and Phil Kessel might be on the same line, that's just a lot of fun.